Elaria lived in a small village nestled between rolling green fields and deep forests. Her home was a tiny wooden cottage at the edge of the village, where she lived with her mother. Life was hard for them, they owned little more than a few chickens and a patch of land. Yet Elaria never complained. She rose each morning with a smile, helping her mother in the fields, carrying water from the stream, and caring for the children of neighbors while their parents worked. The villagers often said that although Elaria had no riches, her heart was richer than gold. One evening, as the sky turned shades of rose and violet, Elaria carried a basket into the forest to gather firewood. The air smelled of pine and earth, and the only sound was the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze. She walked deeper into the woods than usual, her bare feet brushing against mossy ground. Just as she was about to turn back, something caught her eye, a faint, golden glow beneath the roots of a great oak tree. Curious, she placed her basket aside and knelt down. There, hidden in the soil, lay a pair of shoes unlike any she had ever seen. They were heels made of gold, so bright they seemed to hold the light of the setting sun. Elaria's hands trembled as she picked them up. They were warm to the touch, almost alive, as though they had been waiting for her. For a long moment, she simply stared at them, wondering who could have left such treasures in the forest. Then, with hesitant excitement, she slipped them onto her feet. Instantly, a strange warmth rushed through her body. She took one step, and the ground beneath her burst into tiny white flowers. She gasped, then stepped again. More flowers bloomed, spreading out in a trail behind her. The forest glowed brighter, the air felt lighter, and Elaria knew in her heart that these shoes were no ordinary heels. She stood beneath the ancient oak, her eyes wide with wonder. Somewhere deep inside, she felt that her life was about to change forever. The next morning, Elaria awoke with the golden heels resting neatly by her bedside. For a moment she wondered if it had all been a dream, but when the first rays of sunlight touched the shoes, they shimmered so brightly that the entire cottage seemed filled with light. She slipped them on again, and instantly the same warm, comforting magic flowed through her. Elaria stepped outside. As her feet touched the earth, little bluebells and daisies bloomed along her path. The children playing nearby gasped in delight and ran after her, giggling as flowers sprouted wherever she walked. One boy, who had been coughing weakly for days, brushed against her gown. To his mother's astonishment, his cough disappeared, and color returned to his cheeks. Word of the miracle spread quickly through the village. Soon, people came to Elaria with their troubles. An old woman with aching bones, a farmer whose crops had withered, and a young girl who had not walked for weeks. Elaria, shy but eager to help, walked beside them. With every step she took, life seemed to return. The old woman's pain faded, the farmer's field blossomed with green shoots, and the little girl stood on her feet once more. The villagers gathered around Elaria, calling her, the girl with the golden heels. They celebrated her kindness, not just the magic. For though the shoes carried power, it was Elaria's gentle heart that guided their blessings. She never used the heels to ask for wealth or comfort for herself. Instead, she wore them only to ease the burdens of others. As the days passed, the once ordinary village began to transform. The fields grew greener than ever, streams ran clear as crystal, and the laughter of children echoed through the air. Travelers from distant towns started arriving, carrying gifts and hoping to see the miracles for themselves. Elaria greeted them all with humility, never letting pride touch her soul. Yet, as the village flourished, whispers of her magic began to spread beyond the valleys and hills. And though Elaria did not know it yet, those whispers would soon reach ears filled not with wonder, but with envy. Far away from the little village, in a grand stone palace decorated with silver chandeliers and velvet curtains, lived the Duchess of the land. She was a woman of wealth and pride, surrounded by jewels, silks, and servants. Yet despite all her riches, her heart was restless, for she craved not just power but the admiration of her people. When word of Elaria's golden heels reached the palace, the Duchess was furious. "A poor village girl stealing the eyes and hearts of my subjects," she hissed, pacing across her marble floor. "That power should belong to me, not to some barefoot child." Her jealousy burned brighter than her emerald rings. She summoned her captain of guards and ordered, "Bring the girl to me. The shoes are mine by right. If she refuses, take them by force." The guards, though uneasy, obeyed. That very night, the soldiers stormed into the quiet village. The villagers tried to hide Elaria, but the Duchess's men were too many. Torches lit up the streets as they searched house by house, until they found the golden glow spilling from beneath Elaria's door. With fear in her heart, Elaria clutched her mother's hand. She wanted to run, but she would not endanger her people. Instead, she stepped outside, her heels shining softly in the dark. The villagers surrounded her, pleading with the soldiers to leave her alone, but the men forced their way through. "The Duchess commands it," they said coldly, seizing Elaria's arms. Though her mother wept and the villagers shouted in protest, Elaria was taken away, carried to the palace like a prisoner. Inside the grand hall, the Duchess sat waiting on her jeweled throne. She leaned forward eagerly as the guards placed the golden heels before her. With trembling hands, not of humility, but of greed, she slipped her feet into them. For a single breath, the hall grew bright. The Duchess smiled, thinking the magic was hers at last. But then the heels darkened. The golden glow twisted into a dull gray. With a terrible groan, the shoes turned to heavy iron, shackling her feet to the marble floor. She gasped as the weight dragged her down, making her stumble and fall. The more she struggled, the heavier the iron became, until she could barely move. The guards looked on in horror. Elaria, though frightened, could only whisper, "The heels do not serve greed, they serve kindness." And in that moment, the Duchess realized the power she had so desperately sought would never bow to her. The palace hall was filled with a heavy silence. The Duchess lay on the cold marble floor, her jeweled crown slightly tilted, her feet bound by the iron heels that had once shone like the sun. She tugged and clawed at them, but the harder she tried, the more the iron tightened, as though the shoes themselves were punishing her greed. The guards shifted nervously, not daring to touch their mistress. Servants whispered in the shadows, frightened by the dark magic that had taken hold of the Duchess. Elaria stood quietly, her hands clasped together. Though she had been dragged from her home and treated unfairly, her heart ached at the sight of the Duchess struggling. Stepping forward, her golden heels glimmering faintly, she knelt beside the trembling woman. "Please, help me," the Duchess whispered, her pride broken, her voice softer than anyone had ever heard it. Elaria reached out, placing her hand gently on the cold iron. At her touch, the metal softened, glowing with light. Once more, slowly, the iron melted away, and the heels returned to their golden form. Yet they slipped off the Duchess's feet as if rejecting her, and instead rolled silently back to Elaria, glowing warmly by her side. The Duchess stared, her eyes wide with disbelief. Why do they obey you and not me?" she asked, her voice shaking. Elaria looked at her kindly and said, "Because they were never made for power or wealth. They live for kindness and love. Those who seek them with greed will never find joy in their steps." Her words pierced the Duchess's heart more deeply than any punishment could. For the first time in many years, tears welled in the woman's eyes. She lowered her head, ashamed. "I have ruled with pride and taken more than I gave. Yet you forgive me, even now." Elaria helped her to her feet, and the Duchess's heart, once filled with envy, began to soften. In that moment, she understood the truth. Power without compassion was emptiness, and riches without kindness were nothing but dust. The guards and servants, who had watched everything unfold, bowed their heads in silence. They knew they had witnessed something greater than magic, they had seen mercy change even the hardest heart. The Duchess, still trembling, turned to Elaria and said, "Go back to your village, child. I will not keep you here. From this day, I will strive to serve my people as you serve yours." And with that promise, the palace felt lighter, as though a great shadow had been lifted. Elaria returned to her village at dawn. The sky glowed with soft gold as if the heavens themselves were welcoming her back. When she appeared at the edge of the fields, the villagers ran to greet her, tears of joy streaming down their faces. Her mother embraced her tightly, whispering thanks to the stars for bringing her child home. With every step Elaria took, her golden heels shimmered, and the land seemed to awaken. Flowers of every color bloomed across the meadows, trees stretched tall and green, and the air filled with the sweet scent of blossoms. The dry fields that once worried farmers now overflowed with grain, and the rivers sang with crystal clear water. Soon, the little village became known as the Kingdom of Blossoms. Travelers from across the land came to see its wonders, endless gardens, abundant harvests, and children who laughed without fear of hunger or sickness. People often asked Elaria to take the throne as queen, but she only smiled and said, "I am no queen. I am only a girl who walks with kindness." Even the Duchess visited from time to time, dressed not in jewels but in simple gowns. She worked beside the villagers, carrying baskets of fruit and offering help with the harvest. Though her pride was not gone overnight, she was learning, step by step, to live with humility. Many who had once feared her now began to forgive. Elaria continued her quiet life, never seeking glory, always using the gift of the heels to bring joy and healing. To her, the true magic was not in the shoes themselves but in the love they allowed her to share. At night, as the stars twinkled above, children would gather around her, listening to her stories and asking her to show them how flowers bloomed beneath her steps. She would laugh softly, twirling in the fields as golden petals danced in the moonlight. And so the legend of Elaria spread far and wide, a tale of a girl whose kindness turned a village into a kingdom, whose forgiveness softened even the hardest heart, and whose golden heels left behind not just flowers but hope. For generations to come, mothers whispered to their children, "Remember, my dear, the true treasure is not gold, but the good we bring to others." And somewhere in the fields of the Kingdom of Blossoms, Elaria's golden footsteps continued to shine, eternal as the dawn.